Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. So in today's video, we're talking about shoe myths. Now, many years ago, I did a video on how to make your high heels more comfortable, which many of you may have seen. That video has over 1 million views now, and oh my god. So I will leave my high heel hacks video down below in the description box in case you haven't checked it out. Look for that in the description box down below. But in today's video, we're going to be covering some myths about shoes. So, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and let's get started. By the way, if you're new here, my name is Katherine, and my channel is KWSHOPS. I titled my channel KWSHOPS because guess what? I really love shopping, and I actually work in the luxury resale industry. So it is my job to assess items and actually put dollar values on them. So on my channel, I give you guys a whole bunch of tips on how to maintain value, as well as what is a worse or better buy. So if that interests you, please hit the little subscribe button right here in the corner. Or is it this corner? I'm pretty sure it's this corner. Either way, look for the red subscribe button and hit the notification bell so you can be notified every time that I upload. First shoe myth is that in order for shoes to be beautiful, they have to be uncomfortable. Absolutely not. That is a lie. Some of my most comfortable shoes, and by the way, I only buy comfortable shoes now. I don't know if it's because I've gotten older and I just don't want to deal with it, or because I just really know what is going to be a comfortable shoe for me. And I've just gotten better at shopping for myself over the years. But comfortable shoes can still be beautiful. One of my most comfortable pairs of shoes is actually not very popular, is a very not popular pair of shoes, and that is the Christian Louboutin Pigalle. This is the old model of the Pigalle, so this is pre-2014. I bought these pre-loved, and they are one of the most comfortable pairs of shoes that I own. Now, this video isn't going to be specifically about shoe comfort, but if you would like a roundup of my most comfortable shoes, as well as what to look for in shoe comfort, then let me know in the comments down below. If you have any other video requests, also put them down there. And that goes for high heels, it goes for low heels, and that goes for flats. Some of my most uncomfortable shoes of all time have been flats. And for me, as a person who really loves heels, I just can't stomach that. Like, if I'm gonna be wearing flat shoes, then the whole idea is for them to be comfortable, right? Don't let a high heel scare you away. Don't let a stiletto scare you away. You never know. You can have absolutely gorgeous shoes with high heels that make you look tall and slender, and they can still be comfortable. High heels do not have to be painful to be pretty. So, shoe myth number 2 is that European sizes line up with American sizes. I wish this were the case because it would make shopping for designer shoes a lot easier, but unfortunately it isn't. I wear a US 9, and these shoes range behind me and everywhere from a European 38 all the way up to a 41, whereas my American shoes generally are a 9. So that is to say that every designer is different, every shoe is going to be cut differently, but just know that European sizing does not always line up. The general rule that is given by most websites in their size guides is that, for example, like in my case with my size, a US 9 would be a European 39, and generally speaking with European shoes, I wear a 39.5 or a 40. It has been my experience, and I'm also not only talking about my own experience. As I said, I work in the pre-loved industry, so I actually do see people trying on shoes in many different sizes, and most people have to size up. And it is my opinion that if everyone has to size up, that means the shoe is small, not the people are big, right? I can't speak for the smaller sizes because many of them, you know, if you wear a 6 US, maybe you do wear a 36 in European. Can't speak for you guys, but I just know that once you get past a size maybe 7, 7.5, then the sizes start to skew and they start to be really weird. I also do think that providing this as your unit of measure does a really serious disservice to people buying, especially because business has moved a lot online and people are really relying on these size charts to, you know, be accurate. And unfortunately, it is my opinion that these size charts aren't accurate. I think it would be better suited for everyone if we were honest with people and we said that a US 9 is an EU 39.5 or 40. I'm just saying. So the third myth about designer shoes is that more expensive means better quality. And you know what? This goes outside of designer shoes, obviously, but I'm here to tell you that there are shoes I've purchased that I've only worn maybe once or twice that have fallen apart, whereas there are other shoes I've bought from places like Zara and Steve Madden that I've worn to death over the span of more than 5 years that are still holding up strong. Designer shoes you would expect to be better quality, you would expect them to use, better materials, and it is largely the case that they will use better materials. I know this because a couple of mine have actually broken and I've had to take them in for repair. I know that they do tend to use glue when you would think that at the price points you're paying that certain materials would be sewn down and reinforced a bit better, and unfortunately that's not the case. This is true of Manolo. I've seen terrible horror stories with the Manolo classic pump. I am misplacing the name at the moment, but I'll leave a photo right here. So if we're talking about glued on buckles, talking about glued on soles or insoles, then I really think that it is a huge myth that more expensive shoes lead to better quality, because unfortunately that's no longer the case. So some people have noted that you get better customer service from the designer shoe brands, and honestly, depending on where you shop, that may not necessarily be the case. For example, if you were to buy Steve Madden from somewhere like Nordstrom has great customer service and a really lenient return policy. So if anything were to be damaged or defective, even if it were a lower value, lower price point, you might still be able to return it or have it fixed, etc. However, it is really important that I mention the potential resale value of designer shoes is much, much better than if you were to get lower quality shoes. So even though the quality doesn't necessarily line up, if and when you decide a pair of shoes is no longer for you, you're more likely to be able to sell them instead of have to donate them or throw them away potentially than if you were to get the lower brands. And the next one is that vintage shoes come back in style. And now this one is a little bit hit or miss, because obviously we've seen that the shoe styles of the late 90s and early 2000s have come back in full force, and while I'm not particularly loving that, I have at work tried to take in actual vintage shoes from that time period, and it has been my experience that even though this shoe is back in style, people aren't necessarily buying them on the resale market, which I think more people should do, and I do want to spread the word about that. To buy a pair of like Manolo kitten heel like strappy sandals, I personally would prefer to save the money and get a pair that are actually the original ones from the late 90s. Look on places like eBay and The Real, both of which will be linked down below, and you'll be able to find them for a lot cheaper. Like, to me, they're exact replicas, for lack of a better word, of the original shoe, so you might as well save the money. The myth here is that you're really able to resell vintage shoes. It's actually really, really hard to do that, unfortunately, because silhouettes tend to change. Now, it is a little bit different now, but just generally speaking, over the course of my experience in this industry, the silhouettes change and people don't really tend to go for them. But I am very curious to see how this plays out with the more recent shoe styles. And also, in my experience, I have struggled to sell any of these shoes for more than $50. So if you guys are watching this video now, you guys are into these styles. Personally, I'm not. They look a little unflattering and dated, but if you are into these shoe styles, then look on eBay, because people are trying to get rid of all of these shoes. Over time, your shoe size will change, and it's been about 20 years, so maybe you'll be able to score a couple deals and save some money. The next myth is a general myth, and that is that certain shoes will sell out really quickly, so you have to jump on them immediately. That is a myth. What has been my experience with designer shoes is that, and again, there are definitely a couple of outliers. With designer shoes, they will launch a shoe and it will like take off and become super popular. But over time, it has been my experience that when a designer shoe does sell out and there's a whole bunch of like frenzy and hype around it, what they'll try to do generally is try to capitalize on that hype as much as possible to try and, you know, make the money while people are begging for it. And eventually you'll end up seeing them on sale. Now, okay, now it's not always the case, but I have seen it happen time and time again where, you know, people will like line up for a limited edition collection, and then in the next season, because they were so popular, the shoe gets re-released. And with that popularity, you will tend to see items come up in the sales later. So for me, I am not a super like trend-driven person by nature. I never have been. But if I really do like a shoe, I do, especially with designer price points, I will tend to wait them out as much as possible. I have made a mistake once and I really, really regret it. That is to say that if you are like dying over a pair of shoes, just know that it's okay, it's okay. Sit this one out, and if you really love them, like 6 months from now, they probably will be in the sales. Okay, and now this one, I'm a little bit unsure of. This is only based on my own experience. So, and this is about wearing your designer shoes in Europe. Now, the first couple of times that I went to Europe, I've been to London, I've been to France, and I've been to Italy, and I was super excited because most of these shoe designers are in France, are in Italy. So I thought maybe I should bring all of my cool designer shoes. And unfortunately, it is all but impossible to wear, these are Chloe, by the way, to wear a heel like this in Europe. So that is to say that their streets and their sidewalks tend to be made of like brick and cobblestone, and they're just not very sturdy. They're not really designed for a spike stiletto heel like this one. That is a great way to ruin your shoes, is by walking around in them in cities like Rome. So unfortunately, it is not the best idea to wear your designer sky-high heels in Europe, which sucks, because I wanted to bring all of my cool, great stuff, and I didn't get to wear it because I didn't want to ruin it, unfortunately. By the way, if any of you watching do happen to live in Europe, let me know about your experiences down below. When I was there, I did notice that most of the women didn't wear super high heels. I imagine it was for this exact reason, but I would love to hear your thoughts on this. And also a huge thing to contrast is that, with the US and in Europe, is that we tend to, in the US, to spend a lot more time in vehicles, and we will go door to door in a vehicle, so we are able to wear higher heels because we're not walking as much. That's just sort of like a theory I'm kind of chewing on. So let me know about your experiences down below in the comments, because I want to see if this has been anyone else's experience as well. And my last myth, unfortunately, is that designer shoes are worth the money. And now, I'm calling it a myth, even though this technically is my opinion. Money is worth different things to different people, but it is my opinion, as someone who does resell shoes for, you know, a job, people tend to be really disappointed with the amount of money we're able to get for designer shoes. If you spent $1,400 on a pair of shoes, for example, generally speaking, after a couple of seasons, people buying pre-loved shoes, especially if they've been worn, people don't tend to want to spend more than $300 or $400. So in my eyes, it makes it that designer shoes are not really worth the money. You're kind of, especially if they don't work out for you and you've worn them a couple of times, you're kind of lighting the money on fire when you buy them, which is why I only, for the most part, will buy my shoes pre-loved. I will buy them on deeply discounted sale. However, when I do buy designer shoes, I will buy them on flash deal sites like Rue La La or like Gilt or like some of the other ones. I'll link those down below. Matter of fact, these are from Giuseppe Zanotti, and I think they retailed at probably around $700 or $800. They're satin with patent leather, a whole bunch of different patterns. I haven't worn them in a while, but I bought these on Rue La La for like 200 bucks. Like, that's the price that Steve Madden tries to charge for some of their shoes, and I got Giuseppe Zanotti instead. So I'm gonna link I'm gonna link the flash deal sites that I like down in the description box below, as well as some of my favorite pre-loved resources. One of my favorite pre-loved resources for shoes, The Real Real. So please go check those out. You'll save a ton of money. I've gotten so many amazing deals on some of these sites. Today's episode of Luxury Mythbusters, we talked about designer shoe myths. Let me know in the comments down below if there are any other thoughts you have on what myths there are surrounding designer shoes and shoes in general. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!